Happy 2019, and more importantly, Merry Holidays and happy almost 2020. My friends, today is a very special video that I have to make today because I won't be able to make it tomorrow, and I have to get it done before 2019 is over. So first I'm going to recognize all of you, starting with Mushu, because wow, Mushu, that is a generous gift. Thank you so much. Scotty Marish is in the house. Scott, good to see you. Jim Face, what's up, buddy? Michael Flynn, my patron. Dinosaur Battle. Hey, Dinosaur, what's going on, buddy? Scott Marish, my 3 resolutions are more hugs, more D&D, and to be a Bill Allen patron. It's as cheap as $1 a month. We would welcome you. I figured out one time that if just half of my subscribers pitched in $1 a month, my whole life could be better. But, you know, that's just me. VA, what's up? Mushu, thank you so much for that awesome Super Chat donation. Thank you. It is really a nice way to tag 2019 with a powerhouse bit of love. So I'm going to start off by saying Scottman. Oh, Scrotman's here. What's up, Scotty? Jonathan Taylor, Dinosaur Battle, and Tomas Franco. I will say this, yes, thank you, Michael. So this whole video concept came from none other than DoD Spec Ops, who's probably working right now and can't get onto this live stream. So on the replay, I want to say thank you to DoD Spec Ops and to all of my patrons. But DoD reached out to me with an idea, and his idea was basically, hey, Bill, why don't you do a Reflections 2019 video where you kind of talk about some of the reflections from just the overall 2019 experience. Talking about shows, talking about teaching, talking about the students and the cast members, talking about the alumni, talking about the conventions, all of it. And I thought, you know what, that would be an awesome idea to do. And he suggested doing it live. So what I'm going to try to do is juggle the topics that he sent me and also kind of keep tabs without a moderator, being my own moderator, on the chat. So bear with me if I don't jump in immediately on questions that you guys have, but I'm going to try to address these reflections in an organized fashion. So here we go. All right, so the first one, your take on your subject matter as a content creator. Okay. You guys that have been with the channel know that when I started the channel, the reason why I called it Bill Allen World is not because I'm a narcissist or an egotistical jerk. Well, I might be. But the reason why I called it Bill Allen World is I needed a place just to put all the stuff that I like, all the things that I like to do. And at the time, the launch was really kind of about crafting and terrain and minis. So I did unboxings of Dwarven Forge stuff that I had gotten. I did some builds with terrain. I started getting into crafting terrain because Dwarven Forge is really expensive. So I started crafting my own terrain, and I made a lot of terrain tutorial videos. And that was kind of the initial reason for creating content. In the first couple of years, I just kind of did that kind of stuff and DM tips. And then D&D with high school students launched, and that kind of changed the focus of the channel. And really then is where I started to realize that there were a lot of actual play and gameplay and podcasts of people playing games, but not a lot that combined playing games with teaching people how to play games, and specifically with the high school students, teaching them how to play games, and also letting them learn, letting them make mistakes. So really where things are right now, if I was doing the State of the Union 2019, I would say that we have, through your support as subscribers, through our patrons, through people donating stuff, we have really built a community here at the high school. And even beyond the high school students now, we're branching out into partnering with our friendly local game store, Fair Game. And we're doing programming now with middle school kids and elementary school kids and families, adults. So it's been a crazy year, really. It's been an amazing, explosive year. D&D with high school students season 3 is where the explosion really kicked off, and there was a demand for more. And Jenny and Jordan starting up the B team, and then some of the other kids in high school kind of doing their stuff. We had Dungeon Mayhem, which, you know, Wizards of the Coast, Greg Tito and Shelly Mazanoble sent us a little prize pack last Christmas of stuff. Books, dice, and Dungeon Mayhem. And we'd never heard of Dungeon Mayhem. It had been out for a while. The students started playing it on their own, which was so rewarding for me. Like, that they found this game, and it's not a role-playing game. It's like a card-based game, but it's still kind of D&D-ish. And they started playing it, and they loved it. And then they pitched to me, hey, Bill, let's do a tournament. And so we did. So the Dungeon Mayhem tournament was a great way for them to learn more than just D&D and also have fun with it. And they really took ownership over the production and like the graphics and the scores and all that stuff. So that was an exciting thing. But if I had to say what the focus of being a content creator is now, really the channel is evolving into a community growing experience. And by the support of you guys, and especially through the support of the patrons, we've been able to grow. And, you know, 2019 was kind of the big year of growth. The fact that season 4 has 2 casts, the Vixens and the Medusas, is not an accident. It's the fact that we're growing. And that we have even more content coming. The experiment with doing a Call of Cthulhu game live on Halloween was a huge success. It was a lot of fun, and it was the first time that the kids really took over ownership over the game, and Jordan did a fantastic job running the game. So in 2020, we're looking forward to more of that. Let me tap in here. Hello, Shalendor. What's up? Thank you, as always, for reminding people to hit up that like button. VA, you are an ardent supporter. Thank you. Yeah, we must keep the Coke Zero fund going. Speaking of Coke Zero, you'll notice we have the mini fridge out. I have my DM mug full of Coke Zero, and just in case I run out, we have more in the Coke Zero fridge right there. A little fun donation. One of my patrons, Tricky Troy, has been very generous with just sending us fun things and silly things and gaming related things too. But you guys have always been so supportive. The Coke Zero thing started off as just a joke because Carafa and I drink Coke Zero, and then you guys noticed, and now it's like a regular thing. So thank you for that. Aha, ha. Guys, I've watched season 1, episode 1 of High School Students Learn D&D. I have no idea how to play, but I love it. Thank you and welcome. We are here for you and people like you, people of all ages, people of all backgrounds, because role-playing games are fun, and it's a great way to get together with people and use your imagination, use your creativity. So welcome to you. Tex, what's up, my friend? Good to see you. Good to see you all. Eric Yop, good to see you, my friend. Shalendor, Jonathan Taylor. I will answer that question very soon, Jonathan Taylor, because the second prompt on DoD's list of things that I should address happens to relate to that. Your most favorite D&D with high school students season and episode. All right, oof. It's really hard to choose a season, because each cast is special to me. The kids who did season 1 had no preparation. It was a very rushed thing. The whole birth of this thing was very unplanned. And I will always thank Heather and Cooper and Brian and Rory for coming up with the idea to play D&D as a final project for class. It created what we're doing now. It was the birth of, it was the seed of that. Was it the best role-playing? Was it my best storytelling? No. Season 2 was just born out of hilarity. I think season 2 might be one of my favorites because the cast members, at certain points, they were friends and then they were enemies. Some of them were dating and then they broke up. Season 2 had all the high school drama in a game of D&D. And a lot of those students are ones who, came in kind of shy and then really shined as the season went along. So I saw a lot of growth in season 2. Season 3 was the most chaotic. I had to juggle players because of, personal issues. We started off with a strong cast, and then that kind of fell apart, and then people came in and filled in roles and took over characters, and new people were brought in. And in a lot of ways, season 3 was really the first season where we really hit our stride in terms of like a storyline really developing and the players buying into it. And for that, I really have to thank Tony and Beecher and Sam, because they were kind of the consistent people who were always showing up in the group. They were the core group. I think Skyla enjoyed playing, but after a while it was too difficult managing her personal life and her goals with playing D&D. Neely dropped out for personal reasons, but I think Beth did a good job coming in and taking over Mantra. And Beth has really come to own Mantra as her character, and I love the way she's playing. Which brings us to season 4. Well, you could look at the B team, and I think the B team was really just a really long prelude series for the Medusas, because Jenny and Jordan were kind of getting comfortable with playing on camera, and they really came into their own now as the leaders in season 4 of the Medusas. And I think the Medusas is a good mix of people who have played the game before, but also still are learning. So I think you see kind of, newer players with Virginia and Andrea, and then, DJ and Jenny and Jordan having a little more experience playing, but learning how to play together has been really kind of a cool thing to watch them evolve. And I think where they are now is they've hit a point where they've made some mistakes and they're learning with each other and from each other, which is great. So as a teacher, I love seeing that. Last, we have the Vixens, who are, I think they get along well, and they're friends kind of outside of the game, which helps. But like none of them really have experience playing D&D other than Beth, and even Beth is kind of new. So playing with the Vixens has been a learning experience for me, because I realized a few episodes in that what I probably should have done is started them at first level. Because basically now they have relatively powerful characters, but they're playing like newbies because they've never played. But I think that they're starting to grow with each other. So if I have to answer DoD's question, I would say that season 3 right now was the longest running, but also the most challenging. And season 2 was probably my favorite. I think the chemistry between the two factions in season 2, between Carl and the rest of his group, and then Sean and Anna, Willie and Trixie, I think that created a really rich dynamic. They split the party, they reunited, they killed each other off. It was kind of a whole story. I think the most memorable moments of season 2 were probably the conflicts that they had with each other, the final battles between Willie and Trixie and Carl's group. I think just even in the first episode, Carl's genius plan of going to the roof and distracted everybody with a performance is, one of those D&D moments that you'll never forget. So that's kind of my recap of my favorite bits from shows and seasons. Dinosaur Battle. Hey, Bill, could you try running a Star Wars RPG? What's funny is I still have my original book of Star Wars, and I would not be against it. It might be one of those one-shot things that we do as a special one-shot live stream in honor of the final Star Wars movie coming out, which I haven't seen yet, so no spoilers. Don't tell me anything. I think if I asked all of you guys what your favorites were, we would get a huge variety of options, because everybody kind of clicks with certain players or certain memorable scenes or certain memorable encounters. I mean, even just now, like thinking about season 3, the encounter with the magical rug, like that wasn't supposed to be as funny as it was. It just turned into a funny thing. They didn't really figure out how it worked, and then it became kind of funny. So that was one of those things that also, you know, when I think of memorable moments, that was like a memorable moment. Let me see what you guys are saying. My favorite role player. I could tell you, I can't tell you my favorite period, but I could tell you some of my favorites. So I think out of the boys from all the seasons, I'm tempted to say Carl, but really Carl just kind of played a version of himself. And Carl's pretty naturally good at acting. And I think Carl playing Ralof was, you know, as a tiefling bard and sort of a socialite, I think Carl was good. I think in terms of role-playing and really sticking to their characters, I think Beecher and Tony were also very strong. I think Tony played Caedmon very well as kind of this, I don't want to say pompous, but, you know, self-assured forest gnome, hippie kind of bard. And Beecher, I think, really played Olin, his Aasimar warlock, very well. I think in terms of clever player and strategic player, I think Sam has done a good job playing Elore very well, and even role-playing her ongoing passion for the Royal Highness of Kabul Kailish, Kor Paigambar. I think she did a really good job there. In terms of fun, in terms of playing their character and having fun with it, I think Anna and Sean really did a good job playing Willie and Trixie. I don't know if I would say their role-playing was that great, but playing the game, I think they did a good job. Those were entertaining players for sure. Dovahkiin Templar, welcome my friend. Happy almost New Year. Yeah, I mean, you guys basically, everybody has their own favorites. And I think for me, I feel the same way. You know, there are some days where I wish that, you know, I could have Sean and Anna come in and play the adventures of Willie and Trixie every day. But, you know, I'm also, I think I'm excited by the new casts in season 4 because they're very different chemistries and they're learning in their own ways, kind of at different levels. So that's also exciting for me. Yes, so to the point of Star Wars, is it a possibility? Absolutely, as a one-shot. I don't think that I would be able to run an ongoing campaign for Star Wars simply because of time. We have a lot of things coming up, which I'm also going to address in this video. So I think for me, it's balancing time. That's kind of a big one. How many homebrew elements do you use in your adventures, and how original do you make them? Are any of them built off of any popular settings? That's a great question. Everything that I run on the shows is from my own original world. I started building this world in 1998, and it's a large world, like physically large, so there are a lot of continents and islands. I try to avoid using source books and pre-published content. So basically the world where season 1 was set, that is on a continent called Arakazine in my original world. And that continent, very specifically due to its history and its setting, has no arcane magic, no enchanted items, and humans are the only player race option. And there's whole backstories for that. Seasons 2 and everything on from that have been set on the island continent of New Wolf Otmai, which is also part of my original world. That has its own lore, its own information, its own stuff. If I had to say what part of my world was the most like any existing D&D content, New Wolf Otmai is is the most like that. The other parts of my original world do not really use the stereotypical fantasy races that you would see other than humans. So like in the majority of my original world, there are no elves, there are no dwarves, there are no gnomes, there are no dragonborn, there are no et cetera, tieflings, all that stuff. I've invented my own original races for the other parts of the original world. So will we ever see that in future seasons? Maybe. I think a lot of that depends on how soon I'm ready to publish that kind of material. But that's a good question. Hello, Ishtvan. Welcome, my friend. Scott Marish, do you know yet if the Cthulhu sessions will be an ongoing campaign or individual one-shots? Scotty, great question. Jenny and Jordan and I have been strongly discussing how we will move forward with this. And I love Call of Cthulhu. I've enjoyed H.P. Lovecraft since the late 80s, early 90s. I played much older editions of Cthulhu. I think it's one of the best examples of horror role-playing, but it's not the only system. And this is where Jenny and Jordan and I have not yet made a final decision, is what system to play. We have been looking at Monster of the Week. We've been looking at Call of Cthulhu. And we've even been looking at a few other smaller indie game systems for horror. And I've had a bunch of people recommend other game systems as well. I think for us, we are looking for a chance to play a live once a month ongoing campaign in a horror RPG. We just haven't decided what system to use. And it really comes down to a question of what we're comfortable playing with, but also, like, are there opportunities for partnership available? So the way I look at it is, you know, if you go on YouTube or Twitch, there are a lot of people already doing actual plays of Cthulhu. And there's a lot of audio podcasts of people playing Cthulhu. And really, I don't see a reason to copy what someone else is doing. I'd rather try something new. And frankly, I have my own game world and game system with mechanics that we might even try for our own horror purposes. So we haven't settled on system, but we do know that our goal for 2020 is to be able to do a monthly live stream horror RPG. And this would be run by Jordan, and it would have a cast of players, a core group of 4 players, and we've talked about having Jenny and DJ, and Anna actually has agreed to return if we do this. Jordan would be the storyteller or keeper. And then one more person who is a regular cast member. That might be Melissa, it might be someone else. But the idea is that we would have this monthly live game. So we'll see. And of course, you guys will know well in advance how this would work. But my role in this would be more as a producer. So I would not be playing in the games or running them. What I would do is basically be the producer. I would have the audio content. So I would be kind of behind the scenes, creating cool ambient music and sounds that are relevant to the game, almost like an assistant to Jordan. And I would also be moderating the chat. We do want to have incentives for the audience to be able to follow along and participate live. But we notice that that can be a little bit game breaking. So we're working on a mechanic so that your donation in the super chat during a game can have an impact, but it wouldn't like ruin the game. It wouldn't make it so that like, oh, so-and-so has unlimited rerolls. So we would have like our own kind of mechanic for that to maintain some balance in the game. Hope that answers your question. So have you ever attempted building custom races, classes, creatures, and if so, how hard was it? I'm building my own custom. Yes. So to answer your question, the CS GoPro, I have. I built many races and not so much classes in my game system, but I built races. And the races intentionally are supposed to be different from the classic fantasy options, okay? I did that for a reason, because I wanted my game world to have a different flavor. It's still very much fantasy, but it's got its own races, and maybe more importantly, lore. Like, I have pantheons of gods. I have lore and history and, you know, kind of legend and myth built into it. So that is very much a macro building approach, where I kind of had this intention going forward to make something very different from D&D and Pathfinder and Palladium Fantasy and all the kind of fantasy games that I had grown up playing or even played recently. I wanted it to be different. And that process started back in 1998 when I started developing this world. So honestly, how much has Jenny and Jordan spoiled you this year? Jenny and Jordan are awesome. They bring like all of their efforts into our gaming experience. They have a lot of ideas. And to address something on the 2020 tip, I kind of teased this out before, but I wanted to let you guys all know that starting in January, when we're back in school, we are going to be establishing a D&D club here at the high school. So I have a very enthusiastic group of students who want to learn how to play D&D. Some of them have played a little bit, but none of them have ever really DM'd. And Jenny and Jordan are going to be like my club assistants to help get this thing going. So in the month of January, we're just going to play. Jenny's going to run a table, I'm going to run a table, Jordan's going to run a table, and we're going to try to split up the other students who are interested in the D&D club into joining us. So we're going to have multiple tables running, and it's just going to be easy pre-gen characters and easy scenarios to kind of help them learn the game and learn the rules. And then after that, we're going to build characters with them, go through that process, and then run some more adventures, real simple plot lines, basic adventures, to kind of help them scaffold that to the next level. After that, we're going to start co-DMing with some of them who want to learn how to DM. So we'll kind of teach them how to DM while we're playing the game with them. And then eventually the goal is for, in the new group of people, for them to develop DMs so that they could start running their own tables. And as we grow, we would kind of continue featuring that. So it's very exciting. Like we put in the official paperwork, and we have, you know, probationary approval status. So we basically have this school year to kind of build the program and develop the structure, and then next year they will decide if they're going to maintain it as an actual thing. Keys what? Oh. All right, so that answered several questions. Oh, you know what? Scott Marish points out me not playing in the horror game. So I might step in and play as a recurring guest character, but I wouldn't be part of the core group. So the idea is that Jordan would be running the table with Jenny and DJ and Anna and one other regular player, and those four would be kind of the core group, and then there would be a fifth open spot for guest players. And those might be some of the alumni from other D&D shows, from past seasons of D&D with high school students, or they might be brand new people who we bring in, special guests that are part of the gaming community. So you'll have options to see me, but I won't be one of the core cast members. I would be kind of a recurring character. But yeah, we did talk about that. So I'll still be part of it, but I'm kind of letting the kids take the reins on that. Nathan Marcos, my patron. Ladies and gentlemen, one of my newest patrons, Nathan Marcos, who is joining the Patreon group as an executive producer of the shows, graciously donating $50 through the Super Chat. Thank you, my friend. Hope your holidays were awesome, and wishing you an awesome 2020. I'm looking forward to having you part of our core team. So thank you for that. Hey, Brittany, what's up? Yeah, so the incentives regarding the live streams, we're going to have a system in place, and we'll actually produce like a video before we even do the first one that shortly explains how the interactivity would work. But all that stuff is in the works for 2020. So let me look at DoD's next level of things. All right, now we get to your overall take on YouTube and its influence on your content and next evolution. So you guys might or might not have heard of like the whole COPPA law thing and how YouTube's requiring content creators to label their content. I was very nervous about this, and I watched a lot of other YouTubers' videos, and I did a little research. And to be quite honest, it's pretty scary to think that you could be fined like $40,000 per video if they find that your content has been mislabeled. I, in good conscience, can't see how that would happen because all of the content on my channel pretty consistently has been PG-13. I mean, we have language occasionally. The content of the games can be described as, you know, the description of violence. So I don't think that any of the content on my channel has ever been geared towards children. So I'm assuming, hopefully, that I'm going to be safe on this. And, you know, I'm also a smaller channel, so to me, this seems like a law that's targeted at bigger channels where, you know, people are playing video games and there's kids watching these playthroughs of these video games and there's inappropriate language, that kind of stuff. I don't think we're that kind of audience. If there are kids under 13 watching, you know, what am I going to do? So I don't feel like I'm doing things intentionally to make my channel more YouTube friendly. There are many other channels on YouTube who started at the same time as me or even after me who have way more subscribers, and they have, you know, business deals and sponsorships and partnerships, and a lot of these guys have gone like full-time with their YouTube channels, and good for them, you know, good for them. But you know, my profession is a teacher, and specifically a media teacher, and this is what I do, you know, as a point of enjoyment. It's certainly something that has become important to me. I'm not going to lie, like my support from you guys has been very crucial in allowing me to use what precious free time I have to make content. But I always think of what's going to be the most valuable content that I can make for the gaming community, because really that's what it is. It has become a mission to educate and inform and entertain people with content related to gaming. That's in a nutshell what it's become. Question. Hi Bill, how difficult is it to rework campaigns from other versions? It's not difficult at all. If you're very crunchy and focused on the mechanics, you might find it difficult to convert all the math. But really, a story is a story. Doesn't matter what system it was set in. You can modify that story to suit your needs. You could take monsters and change their stat blocks and make it suit your purposes. Any story, any campaign setting, any modules or adventures that were published, indie content, comic books, any of it can be inspiration that you can rework into whatever gaming system you're using. When I was growing up, D&D was a ubiquitous term for role-playing games, and in a lot of ways it still is. Tabletop role-playing games, people didn't say TTRPGs back in the 80s. D&D was like Kleenex. You know, people use the word Kleenex for any kind of facial tissue. Well, D&D is kind of the Kleenex. You know, people say D&D and you know what it is. You know, if I said Palladium Fantasy Role-Playing, a handful of you might know what that is, but a lot of you wouldn't even have any idea. But there's a whole other world of other fantasy role-playing games out there. So you can pick and choose what you want for influences and mold them into your own content. And a lot of times that's what I recommend for newer DMs, because it might be daunting, it might be challenging to think of like, I want to create my own original world. World building isn't for everyone. I enjoy it. I enjoy it immensely, but some people don't. So take content, take ideas from other ideas, other shows, other comics, other books, other games, and mold them into what you need them to be. I think that answers that. Hey, the Priory has joined us. Welcome. If you're looking for maps, my patron over at the Priory does amazing map work. This Coke Zero brought to you by my patrons, not the least of which is Mushu for that amazing super chat donation. Let me get to this question. Yes, so Brittany is just sharing related to the COPPA thing. They're requiring parents to mail or fax permission slips to YouTube, allowing their children to watch mature content. I can't see how this could be manageable or well enforced. The scary part is that if they don't have enough people enforcing this correctly, that people could accidentally be fined, or that you might have to go to court to fight a fine that you think is wrong, and the legal fees alone could wipe out somebody like me. So it's scary, but I'm trying not to worry about it. Question from Brittany. Are there default stats for monsters on the fly when you don't remember every monster's stats? For me, the default is based on the game I'm running and whom I'm running it for. So if I'm running like a mid-level game and I have monsters and I'm making something up off the fly, I might assign them 40 hit points and an AC of 15 but low attack damage. Or I might change that and make their hit points relatively low and their AC relatively low, but make their hits, their damage, do more. So I kind of try to change it up when I'm making things up on the fly. But my kind of holy trilogy when you're thinking about monster attributes is their armor class and their hit points are related to how easy it is for the players to kill them. And then their attack bonuses and their damage is how hard they're going to hit the players. So if you have a really competent group of players and you don't remember the exact stat block for an ogre, just make it up. Describe the ogre as a large creature, you know, and let them guess whether it's an ogre or a troll or whatever. And, you know, or give it its own name. You can call it an Ubelclock. I just made Ubelclock up. So you can, you know, they can roll Arcana and be like, this is a very rare creature called an Ubelclock. And you know that they're very strong and they like to grapple and crush their opponents. Okay, so I just made that up. So if you have some kind of core stats or even a little cheat sheet, I mean, also if you don't want to have to flip through books, Wizards of the Coast makes like monster cards, so you can just lay out all the cards that you might want to use in an adventure and have their stat blocks handy. That's another way to do it to make it easier on yourself. Ooh, another good question. Let me open up another tab. On behalf of my patron, the Priory, I'm going to post a link to thepriory.com. Now, the Priory also has Instagram accounts and stuff like that if you want to see some examples of maps. You can never have too many maps. Speaking of repurposing old things, I met with my friend Chris, who has a vast collection of all the D&D from all the different eras and editions. And he has taken a whole bunch of old maps and has now organized them by type and has a piece of thin plexiglass laminate that he can throw over a map so that you could lay out these maps from older editions if you want, throw a piece of plexiglass laminate over it and use a wet erase marker to modify or change things, or even do like a fog of war thing where you have it covered up and you reveal it slowly. So it maintains the integrity of the original old map that might be 25 or 30 years old, but you can now reuse these maps for different things. The other variation on that he thought of was putting 3D terrain over a map that's been covered with plexiglass, and then that 3D terrain can be removed to reveal what's underneath. Just some thoughts about how to use maps. How to D&D. Hello, How to D&D. That's a clever name. I hope that you have a channel called How to D&D. Yes, Shalendor says making stat cards for monster that characters summon is a useful item. That absolutely is. If you have people who can summon, you should have a buffet of things for them to be able to choose from. I also think that for any druid who has wild shape, it's important for them to have 5 or 6 different possible wild shape things that fit within their power and their ability, so that they have those stat blocks on hand. Now, most of those common creatures, beasts, are in the back of the player's handbook, but why not have those things blocked out on a little cheat sheet or a bunch of different cards so that they can have them at the ready. So if they're like, I want to turn into a black bear, or I'm going to turn into a wolf, or I'm going to turn into a whatever, a horse, then they'll have the stat blocks for those things. Oh, FlexDRG asked me a question about heavy metal dice. So the thing about all of those heavier dice, the metal dice, is that they don't work well if you're just lifting them and dropping them. You really have to roll them around in your hand and then drop them into your tray. And I do recommend using a dice tray because those metal dice are heavy enough to chip a wooden table. Now, if you're playing on like a crappy table and you don't care about it getting chipped up, then no big deal. But if you're playing at home on like a nice dining room table, you definitely want to roll into a dice tray. I would agree that in principle, lighter dice tend to roll more, but that can also be a hazard. If you have people who are sloppy and they roll and they knock over a bunch of minis or terrain, or their dice always roll off the table, that kind of gets annoying too. So I originally wasn't a big fan of dice trays and I didn't grow up using them, but I have come to appreciate their value when you have a lot of people around a table and a lot of stuff on the table and you don't want dice flying everywhere. So dice trays are cheap. You can go to your local game store and buy a dice tray for like 10 bucks, or maybe a fancier one for 15 bucks. And they're sturdy, they're easy to use, and they're fantastic. So that's my thought on dice trays. Regarding cheat sheets and notes, yes, as Brittany mentions, there's an app, okay? So there's an app for like everything now related to games if you look hard enough. I am sure that there are apps for all that stuff, and having that ready and able to be used is certainly an option. In my How to Be Prepared to Be a Player video, I did mention that I personally always keep a paper copy of whatever I need, whether it's my character sheet, spells, a book, because sometimes devices, technology don't work right, or sometimes the app doesn't load, or sometimes it's based on your internet connection and it's laggy or it's not working. So of course, be flexible, use what works for you, and yes, if you have an app where you can quickly look up the stat block of whatever you need, or a spell, or a wild shape, as Brittany suggested, that certainly is another alternative, for sure. VA says, I alternate between Skull Splitter and Game Science. So yeah, you guys know that we have Skull Splitter dice. I have a variety of dice that you guys have donated over the years that we use at the table. Game Science is one of those companies that I initially met at a convention, and I sat there and talked with one of the original founders and discussed how they make their dice, and specifically the process for cutting them off the SKUs and tumbling versus not tumbling. So Game Science dice really basically takes the level of the science of dice making and how they work and randomization to another level of like nerd that I can't even appreciate fully. But there's a lot of science that goes into it. And if you want, if you're a purist and you want like the most perfect, unadulterated, untarnished dice that will roll in the most randomly true effect, game science dice is the way to go. Made in the USA, I'll also say, for those of you who care about that kind of thing. How to D&D has 15,000 subs. Well, then cheers. Hey, Tricky Troy. What is your biggest challenge with getting the students going, especially with some of the less vocal personalities? You know, that's a pretty obvious challenge. In every season, I think there's some, you know, of the more quiet kids and then some of the more outgoing kids. I think in season 4, you could tell that like Andrea doesn't speak up a lot unless pushed. But I think my way of doing that is by getting the other students to do it. So, you know, we'll talk off camera. We'll have like little debrief sessions off camera where we talk about like, hey, here's what went well, here's what we need to work on. I think trying to be positive and encouraging people to play up certain parts of their characters a little more vocally is what my approach tends to go towards, versus penalizing someone for being an introvert. I'm not an introvert, obviously, but I know a lot of introverts. And I can appreciate somebody who maybe is not 100% comfortable playing a game face-to-face with people while there's cameras cutting around. I can understand that. But my goal is to kind of gently encourage those people and gently push them a little bit to come out of their shells and to not think of this as themselves. For those introverts to be able to play another character, that's one of the main beautiful things about role-playing games. I have, over the past 4 decades, I've played at tables with people who rarely utter a complete sentence when they're in a social setting, but when they're playing in their character, they become a different person. That is role-playing at its essence. So if I could get a person like Andrea or DJ to kind of come out of their shelves and well, not so much DJ, but to talk a little bit more and play their character a little bit more vocally, that's a great achievement being unlocked. I love that. Hi, Jalak. What's up, buddy? Yeah, you guys, this is awesome. For a totally unplanned live stream, it's so good to see so many of you guys on. I was a little worried that this time of day might suck for many of you, but yeah. Yes, indeed. How to D&D brought up a point about making metal dice that are balanced. I would agree. I think metal dice feel good in a tactile kind of way. I don't know that you can make them perfectly balanced, and I also don't know that they are the best in terms of smooth rolling. They don't roll because they're heavier. They don't roll as much. I think specifically the smaller units, like the D4, D6, even the D8, they don't roll as much. So if you're using metal dice and you have somebody who's a pick up and drop kind of roller, make them roll the die in their hand and then pick out up and drop it. That at least will give some more, a bigger element of random. Good point, good point. What, let's see, so I answered Nathan's question. Nicholas Holm asked about the application of natural 20s to skill checks. So if you roll a natural 20 on a skill check in my game, it's just the degree of success. So basically it's not like you get a critical arcane roll. But what it does is it gives me a DM an opportunity to provide a little something extra. So a lot of times if you're playing a game, and this is not just D&D, any game where there's a check for a skill, a talent, knowledge, an ability, and that check is exceedingly good, it gives you, the DM, a chance to reveal information that's maybe a little bit of bonus information, right? So it's not necessarily rules as written, but it's more of an opportunity for you as a DM to basically delineate something or explain something or share something with a player because they happen to have a really good roll. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. Yeah, in terms of whether that's an auto success, I think it depends on the degree of difficulty. So if there's an extraordinarily difficult history check being made, right? Like the likelihood that this character, even with proficiency, would know this very, very, very rare, extremely rare fact. And you say, hey, it's going to be a CR 20. You have to get a 20 or higher total. And they have like a +3 for their proficiency bonus, and they happen to roll a 20. Then I might give them that information. But a 20 doesn't always mean an automatic success for me. It depends. Usually it does. I would say that if in D&D you have a 20, it virtually guarantees an automatic success, unless the challenge rating for whatever it is that you're doing the roll on is like 25 or higher, or 30, you know, and in some higher level scenarios that might be the case, or if there's been some adjustments made, that might be the case. Do 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 do. You guys are having your own awesome discussion, which is why I love you all. Shalendor. We had a woman that was very quiet and shy, but after a few sessions, she became a lot more social in the game, which is awesome. The Priority says, how did D&D's Phandelver walkthroughs were a godsend when I was getting new folks into the game? Yes, that is awesome. Dovahkiin is here because of vacation time. I, too, am on vacation, which is why I'm at work. Okay. Ask Bill about the Lost Mine of Phandelver. I'm sure he will have great advice. I don't. I've never read it. The reason why is I don't run published material. I don't run other people's material, so that's why I don't know anything about the Lost Mines of Phandelver. The only thing I know about the Lost Mines of Phandelver are from watching videos of people who made terrain for it. So Dungeons and Glue Sticks and I want to say Wylock's crafting videos and maybe Black Magic and DM Scotty, like all those people made videos, and a lot of other people have made terrain specifically for the Lost Mines of Phandelver. What I will say though, not to knock published material, I think sometimes having published material is fantastic for new players and new DMs because it gives you something, it gives you a story, it gives you some context for you to run and to learn the game. For somebody like myself, I grew up playing with people who homebrewed their own content, and I grew up running my own content and never really clicked with published stuff. Not to say that I didn't play through adventures, but those were run by other people. So when I'm running content, I run my own content. But I think it's awesome that How to D&D is a channel that teaches people how to D&D, because that's what this community is all about, is growing it. Yes, I feel you. I feel you. All right, I'm going to get back to the prompts that DoD Spec Ops sent me. Merchandise. So if you didn't know, I have a merchandise shop. It should appear under all the YouTube videos. It's on Teespring. We have a bunch of stuff there. I'm actually wearing... Oh, I'm so fat. I gained a lot of weight in the last couple weeks because, you know, Christmas. I'm wearing the Medusa's t-shirt, which Jenny and Jordan made. Jenny actually did the design. This is an original Jenny design, and we're going to have those available. So if you dig the design, you'll be able to get it in a lot of different ways. The merch is available. The Patreon. So DoD said that I should talk about Patreon, and I will. To put it simply, I need Patreon to grow. If all we did was like one show every couple weeks, I probably wouldn't need Patreon. But I need Patreon to grow. I have a extremely busy life, as I'm sure many of you do. I have a family, I have a more than full-time job, and I have the activities of my kids. I mean, my time is stretched thin always. I never have like free time. Patreon is my way to connect more with you guys and for you to support me so that I continue to grow the content on the channel, to grow the community, to reach out, to be able to have more shows for more students, for them to pursue their own shows, all that stuff. So Patreon's immensely important. And I think, I've looked at other people's Patreons, I think I provide a lot of valuable content to my patrons. I mean, my patrons at very low levels get access to like my personal stash of stuff, to content that is only for Patreon. With the exception of the holidays, I basically produce at least one video every week for my patrons. I have special content that I make for my patrons. I have special audio and visual content that I have on a Google Drive that my patrons get access to. And I try to increase that even more. One of my goals for 2020 is to add an adventure as a document to Patreon, so that every month you're going to get basically like a short adventure module. But I will say absolutely that there's no way I would be able to produce 2 D&D shows, plus a monthly live stream horror game, plus Monster Monday, plus Table Topics, plus Build with Bill, plus Feedback Friday. All that stuff is because my patrons have supported me financially, which buys me the free time to give more back to you. So I hope that makes sense. And I will openly admit that it's really been an important part of how we do all this stuff. So yeah, absolutely. If you feel like in 2020 you could spare $2 a month, I would welcome you. The other thing I think that we did that I'm looking forward to doing more of in 2020 is kind of collaborative, creative projects. So we decided to build a town, this town of Lagos, and the patrons all kind of got involved and everybody submitted ideas for shops and NPCs and adventures and storylines. And this town built out into a huge region, which now we're in the process of developing to become a published source book. Now, I will say that the progress kind of slowed down in December, largely because of life and the end of the semester. It's busy at school, it's busy with family. But I'm looking forward to getting back into Lagos and kind of getting it to the next phase. The progress has been immense, and then it slowed down, and then we rocked it again, and now I'm looking forward to getting back into it. So, and I think in 2020, I have other ideas for collaborative projects. One of which is I want to create a format so that the patrons can each submit ideas that are in a specific category, right? So one of the things is like NPCs, and then another thing would be magic items and treasure, and then another thing would be encounters. So each patron would kind of be able to deposit or share their ideas, and then I would take this buffet of ideas and ingredients and turn it into an adventure module that would work over multiple sessions. So, you know, it's fun being able to connect with you guys. I think that's the best part about Patreon, is the ability to kind of connect even further. In reflection, one must also look at one's successes and failures. And I owe my upper level patrons a lot of one-on-one time. So to make up for that, I'm going to be doing some special Google Hangouts with some of my higher level patrons. And I'm also going to open up Gaming with Bill so that we can make up for many months, 6 months of games. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be an important thing to include. Rymore Morris, what? Thank you, man. This is crazy. I have this feeling that the stream is like 30 seconds to a minute behind where I'm at right now, but I just saw Rymore Morris dump 50 bucks into the super chat, so thank you, thank you, thank you. And again, I mean, the Patreon thing is an immensely important thing to me, and I want to, in 2020, I want to be able to reach out to my patrons and solicit them to participate in more of these collaborative creation opportunities. So if somebody's good at building NPCs or writing story hooks, or if somebody wants to create custom treasure, magical items, or if somebody like the Priory, maybe you want to do maps, you know, so it would be cool to have another Patreon created kind of thing and to be able to put that out. And you know, for everybody else, just know that even if you can't do Patreon for whatever reason, you watching these videos, liking, subscribing, sharing them over social media, you make a huge difference as well. So thank you, all of you guys. I mean, like I said in the beginning of this live stream, 2019 was a huge year for us, huge. And it's really all because of you guys and your support. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I want to say, regarding the next thing, your new resolution for 2020, gameplay, content, set design, possibly, okay, so I kind of addressed a lot of this, but I'll summarize. I have a lot of New Year's resolutions for 2020. We're gonna keep the Vixens and the Medusas going strong, but I am very pleased to tell you that in 2020, we will also be launching the Bard Odyssey. And the Bard Odyssey is the show that I've been hinting at. It features the return of Caedmon, Tony, and Allure, Sam, as they meet up with a few new party members, and they are going to carry on the storyline in another direction. I think what's going to be special and unique about the Bard Odyssey is that it's going to feature live music performances, bards, every episode, as well as this ongoing storyline. So it's very exciting. I can't wait for you guys to see it, and I hope you'll love it as much as I love it. Regarding set design, the man behind the curtain, the master of ceremonies, Carafa, outdid himself again, and the Bard Odyssey has its own kind of unique look that's catered towards a more intimate gathering and towards the performance of the music and the storytelling. So it's pretty sweet, and I'm looking forward to the Bard Odyssey in 2020. Also, like I said a little bit earlier in the stream, here at the high school, we are going to be launching a D&D club. I have over 25 high school students, most of them are freshmen and sophomores, who are excited about joining this D&D club and learning how to play D&D, and Jenny and Jordan and I are going to be teaching them how to play D&D and running tables for them so that they can then learn how to run it themselves. So we are growing the community, and that is in no small portion thanks to your generosity. In fact, because of all the different sets of dice and books and other gaming accessories that you guys have sent in, our D&D club is going to start off with like all the supplies that they need, which is pretty exciting. All right, let's talk about 2020. Wait, let me make sure. Okay, I'm going to talk about 2020. So in 2020, we have some huge stuff. Yeah, in a minute, hold on. In 2020, we have some huge stuff coming up, okay? Like I said, we're continuing season 4. The Vixens, the Medusas, and the Bard Odyssey will be launching in 2020. We have our monthly horror live stream that we plan on doing in 2020. We have LionCon, L-Y-O-N, Con, LionCon. I'm going to put it in the chat. Facebook.com/LionCon. LionCon is our very own homegrown gaming and all things geek convention. It's a 2-day event, February 22nd and 23rd, here in the suburbs of Chicago. We have gaming, open gaming, board games, card games. We have partnered with companies including our friendly local game store, Fair Game, who are going to be running multiple learn-to-play sessions throughout both days. We have D&D Adventurers League and full credentials on both days. And we have open gaming and learn-to-game tables that'll be run by other members of the community as well. My friends over at Limitless Adventures are also going to be one of the vendors, and they also will be running game content. So it's very exciting to have that. This will be our 3rd year of doing the convention. We have costume and cosplay contest. We're going to have video game tournaments. We're going to have a Magic draft for those of you who Magic the Gathering. And I believe for the first time ever, Fair Game is actually going to run some Learn to Play Warhammer. So if you're into strategery and wargaming, this is an opportunity to do that as well. There are no special hotels because we're not big enough to have that yet. So there are a lot of different hotels that you could stay at in the Chicago suburban area where LionCon is located that are pretty reasonable. It's $10 at the door to get in, $5 if you're wearing a costume. So we make it cheap on purpose. We have comic book vendors, we have gaming vendors, we have art and craft vendors and artists. So a lot of different cool things are going to be going on at LionCon. We're also going to have some special streamed games, which I'm excited about. Not the least of which should be an alumni game and a few special guest games. So pretty excited about that too. So that's coming up in February. Then in March, towards the end of March, we are once again going to be the official video crew for GaryCon. So if you're going to GaryCon in Lake Geneva, stop by and find us. I will be posting our location. It's a closed streaming room because it's basically the celebrity streaming room. And this is where Luke Gygax hosts all these different celebrity streaming games. Last year was incredible. We had Dwarven Forge, we had Satine Phoenix, we had the epic legends of gaming. Joe Manganiello was there, Matt Mercer was there. The game was run by Mike Merles. So there's a whole bunch of celebrity streaming that we're going to be in charge of running. So Carafa and I and a few of the crew will be there for GaryCon. Yeah, so 2020's got more events, and then later on in 2020, we're probably going to be going down to Central Illinois for Lexicon again. We will probably also be the official crew at Gen Con, although we haven't got a lock on that yet, but I'm looking forward to that. And 2020, the Nerdarchy Convention, that's Halloween weekend of 2020. We are tentatively booked to be the official crew for that, so we'll have more news. So if you're out in the East Coast and you want to head to Philly for the Nerdarchy Convention, that's going to be a big one. Ton of people are going to be there, and we are tentatively booked to be the official video crew for that too. So I'm excited. It's pretty crazy. All right, the last thing DoD wanted was to hear from the students. So let's bring in a student. First of all, let's bring in, I can't do all of you. All right, just get in here. All right, grab that other red chair, and then there's one microphone for you. Michael, come set up another lav.
Oh.
All right, so you put that one on, Shorty. And then...
Can I just do the...
Yeah, that's fine. And then Raygon, you have a lav? All right, special guest time on the New Year's, not quite New Year's Eve live stream.
I always struggle with lavs.
Is tonight New Year's Eve or tomorrow New Year's Eve?
Tomorrow's New Year's Eve. Oh my God, where have you been? Why don't you know what the date is? Yeah. All right, I have the girls' camera fixed. So, DoD Spec Ops suggested that I do this video and interview you guys about your experience with the game thus far and what you think about it and how it's changed you.
Just burped.
Bleh. Okay, hot topics and takes from students, individual students talking about how they feel after a session of D&D and how it's impacted them in real life, spiritually, psychologically, etc. Funniest moment or memorable thing from D&D? All right, so first we'll start with you, Shorte. So, by the way, I'm freezing and I have no hat because you stole it.
This is Bill's
Devil.
hat.
Short devil.
I'll give it when I don't need it. Sometimes we're having bad hair days, and the only thing that can fix it is a beanie.
Okay. So, what is your what's your takeaway so far? We're a few sessions into season 4. What do you think of the D&D game so far?
Most of the things that I've learned have been just like be observant, pay attention.
Yes.
And you have to be a little more prepared than you initially. Like I initially thought you have to like understand what your character can do, and like all the different tools that you have at your disposal that are like specific to your character.
Yes.
So that's
That's the girl's camera.
So yeah.
Yeah. So knowing your character is important, right? Now, how do you feel so far about like the story? Do you feel like you guys, as a group, you have a good grasp of like the story and how the game works, or do you feel like is it a struggle?
As a group, part of me feels like Beth, because of like her history in D&D, has a greater understanding of like what's going on and how everybody's like related to each other and what the whole point is, like
Yes.
full like big picture.
Yes.
But I still struggle. I feel like I still struggle with it pretty. Like I'm always like, wait, I don't, because it comes to do with like taking notes and like being observant and everything. Like you gotta pay attention and know how things are connected, or else you're just gonna be lost.
True.
So I have to like improve on taking notes and stuff.
True. What about personally? So sometimes people play a role-playing game and then it opens up an avenue for you to think about or empathize with something, and then it affects you or you learn something from it about yourself on a personal level. Has playing so far done that in any way for you? And if so, how?
Okay, so we haven't had a session in a minute. But the last that I can remember is just like, I think everybody has to work on, like as a group, and I know I do, just like kind of sitting back and letting other people with better ideas than you, like you have to admit that other people have better ideas than you do. You know, if it works better, you can't just want to do yours because you're stubborn and you want to do yours. You kind of have to sit back and have better listening skills.
Okay, good. All right, Reagan. So basically the same prompts, but for you, like what part of the gaming experience has been the most interesting or maybe challenging?
Like, the most challenging game playing wise would be when we're like talking to people in the game through you, and you have to try to get stuff. It's still trying to get stuff out of you of what's going on.
Yes.
But you're doing it through a tricky manner, especially with the elf who didn't speak a language. I was trying like so hard to try to figure out what was going on. But it was very difficult. Or with the shopkeeper and trying to figure out what the coin was. Oh, all right. Well, that's not me, but.
So do you think, what do you find is the most challenging part of learning the game? Like, so is it like becoming this character and socially interacting, or is it more like the rules and what your character can do? Like, what do you find to be the most challenging from your perspective?
Well, in a
like
game,
having never played D&D.
In a game that seemingly has no limitations, finding out that you do have limitations is very hard to like deal with and figure out. Like, you seemingly have an infinite number of options and ways that you could go with your character.
Right.
But you actually are quite limited in what you can do. Yes. And so I've always been trying to like figure out ways so I can do stuff differently and like utilize the books. Like halfway through the games, you can always see me grabbing a book and trying to figure out what I can do and who his character is and what they can do and trying to understand what was going on. But at the same time, I am very limited in what I can do as a half-orc ranger.
Right. So how do you feel about like the story so far? Like, do you feel like you have a sense of what you guys are doing, why you're doing it, what your part is in the story and the group?
I seem to understand that, or if I don't understand certain parts, they seem irrelevant anyways. Like our origin story, it's important, but it's not as important as where we're going to next. It would be nice to know maybe, but it's not end all be all, and it certainly isn't something that is affecting me as I play.
Right.
And then our end goal, I know when we were at the beginning of our mission, we were very focused. We're like, we have to get there now. We can't make any pit stops, and now we're like, like, what is our goal? Like, let's jump into this temple and talk to this guy. And yeah, we've become very unfocused.
Do you feel like that's are both of you, or either of you rather, concerned about having a plan?
Yeah.
Like, does that feel like it should be important in the game?
So initially, I think our problem was that we were too. I don't think or at least I definitely didn't realize, like, the point of the game is to, like, that new things come up, and, like, you have to. If they come up and you're like, DM is like bringing things up constantly, and we're just ignoring it. That's not the point of the game. We're ignoring the game. So I don't think we've become less focused. I just think we've been more able to see the value of, like, little sidetrack missions and, like, what those are gonna bring to the table, and, like, what new things we might encounter when we do those.
I definitely agree with that, but I also think that we have completely forgotten that we're trying to go, like, north and get something, and that something is also going to give us more missions, and it's only one of, like, 5 things that we're looking for too. So it's not even like the mission's going to end the second we find it.
Yeah.
Like, that is our main goal.
Well, and in a way, it kind of ties in, what you just said ties into what you said before about limits. In a game that seems like there's no limit, there are limits. So in a similar way, when I set things up in a story, for any adventure, not just for you guys, I have multiple threads, multiple plot lines. Like, it's not like a movie where, like, here's the plot. There are multiple things so that you choose what the plot is. So let me ask you this. Reagan, has playing this game had any impact on you, similarly to what I asked Melissa, like any impact on how you think about things? Has it opened your eyes to anything? Has it had any impact, or have you related to anything from the game back to your personal life?
My father used to play when he was younger.
Yeah.
So that's definitely been, like, he thinks it's so funny whenever I'm like, I can't come home, I have, like, D&D after school, and he just laughs at me, and he's like, I never, like, pegged you as somebody who would do that. Like, I got rid of all of, like, my original books that I had from when I was a kid. And, like,
oh my God, I'm crying.
He sold them all on, like, eBay, and they were worth, like, $400, $500, just like original books.
Yeah.
And, like, when I was younger, I was like, hey, nerd. But now I'm like, oh my God, that would have been so cool to have.
Yeah. That's cool. All right, so here's another question. What do you anticipate will be the biggest challenge coming up? You can't give spoilers because you don't know. What do you think? Think about your characters. What do you think will be the biggest challenge coming up?
Figuring out what this monster guy is.
Oh boy.
What point he has in our story. What he's gonna bring.
Duke Sharsane.
Yep.
It's been so long since that episode that I forgot the name, so I had to go look it up. Duke Sharsane.
Yeah, I saw it written on your notepad earlier.
Duke Sharsane.
Yeah, so I totally think that we are gonna have to figure out what he's doing. I think another challenge is just gonna be, like, not getting sidetracked by too much stuff and remembering that we do have to go north.
Yes. Okay. How about you, Melissa?
I think it's more as just, like, players, like, trying to figure out the different, again, like, focus, but also knowing which things are valuable to us. Like, if there's certain things that we're paying so much attention to, and after a while we're not getting the fact that it's not going to give us anything. Like, a problem that seems to come up a lot is that we're like, oh, I'll try this, and you're like, okay, it does nothing. And then I'm like, okay, no, we'll do this. And you're like, it's not going to do anything. We're not, like, what we want to accomplish isn't possible at the time.
So is that my fault or your fault?
I think it's our fault. I mean,
it's not your fault. It's my fault. So a good DM would figure out a way to say no without saying no. which I try to do. Like sometimes you try things and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't seem to have any effect, right? Instead of just being like, no, that doesn't work. But at the same time, like I try to be open-minded. So if you come up with a way to do something that's different from how I planned, if it's reasonably possible, I'll let it happen.
Like the thing with my blood?
Yes. So the blood thing wasn't, you didn't put it this way. The whole tomb, you guys did not do the tomb the way that you were supposed to do it.
Okay.
But you came up with creative ways to do it, so I let it work. Now then there are other things where I'm like, no, that won't work. Like when Reagan wanted to like do a weird ritual
I know, and
to
she's
summon,
like,
and I was like, you don't have that kind of power.
Yeah.
But that's fine. I mean, at least you tried it. That's the thing. So the experience in playing should be a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
Because you play a game, you learn how to play it, but then the more you get into it, the better you become at it, like anything else. DoD Spec Ops is here. He's the reason why I'm making this video.
Legend. We love him.
He'll be here for LionCon. Yay! So,
What's LionCon?
Did you just ask what LionCon is? I will throw a can at you. LionCon is our convention.
Got it.
February 22nd and 23rd. You'll all be there.
On my sister's birthday.
Yeah, she can come too.
Yep.
I'll let her in for free.
Got it.
We have open gaming, we have comics, we have cosplay and costume and a costume contest. We have more games and lots of games, not just D&D, like games, other games.
Nice.
And video games tournaments, and we're going to do a live stream from there. It's going to be awesome.
Where is it? Here?
It's at the Corral. I turned the Corral into an amazing event because I have that power.
And who shows up?
Like 300 people. It's crazy.
Oh.
I'm not even joking. It's massive.
Nice.
And that goes to our budget?
It goes to the club budget.
Nice.
Now,
That's why the club is balling.
yeah, so we have, it's one of our biggest fundraisers, and it's a major event.
Nice.
So we run games there, and we teach people how to play games. And we play games with people to encourage them to play.
Monopoly.
Sure. Yeah. No, I mean, seriously, we will have like normal board games and fun board games and card games and like things that you saw at Gen Con, like that, you know.
Okay.
And like Fair Game will be there. They're going to be one of our sponsors. They're going to be running games and teaching people how to play. And Limitless Adventures is bringing their stuff up. So there are going to be a lot of different people running stuff. Nice. Oh my God, DoD Spec Ops. A merry holidays and New Year to you, my friend. This Coke Zero brought to you by DoD Spec Ops. I'll pour some in, and then you can waterfall the rest of this between yourselves.
As a treat. As a treat.
There you go, girls. You can have the second half.
No, really, I'm
Cheers
okay.
to you, my friend. Looking forward to seeing you in a couple months.
I've never had Coke Zero before.
I will say, oh my God, Coke Zero is the way.
Well, my father and brother
cinnamon
are obsessed
regular
with it.
Coke.
Yeah, it's
regular cinnamon Coke. Okay, full sugar.
Carafa got that cinnamon Coke.
Fire.
And it's weird.
It's so good.
It tastes weird. Yeah, but it's.
Yeah, I don't like soda.
Okay, she can have it.
No, I don't want it. You can have that.
So I will just say, to recap, that this has been an amazing year. 2019 was the year that we conquered and dominated at GaryCon. Gen Con. Let's talk about Gen Con.
I love Gen Con.
I mean, what an amazing thing to be able to go to a convention and to be the official crew, to work with like the biggest people in all the industries.
Yeah.
And when I say work with, like we were the official video crew. And so we met all the vendors when we were in the vendor room, and then the big streaming room. It was fire, wasn't it? Think about how dominating that was.
I also will say Gen Con was like probably in my life the second most intense like work experience I've ever had.
15-hour days.
And then also we were like in Indianapolis, so like, and it was like a fun little trip. So we would like stay up late and then have to wake up at like 6 a.m. And it was just
86, 69. What are you saying?
But it was. I'm so happy.
Satine? No.
Yeah. I was so happy that it happened because like it was the one of the only experiences that I'll ever get that are like before I'm actually like in the industry that'll help me prepare for something like that. And it was just
Well,
good.
and to give props where it's due, the whole original impetus for how we got into the convention circuit started back a few years ago when Black Magic Design, who have very graciously partnered with us and given us so much awesome free stuff here for the studio.
Black Magic Anja is the best thing ever happened
yes.
to us.
Black Magic hooked us up with Maze Arcana, with Satine and Rudy, and that led to a whole bunch of adventures at the Gen Con 50. And then that followed up with us doing more convention work, and then we did stuff with GaryCon and Gen Con again. And 2019 was just a huge year with the conventions, but also just with our stuff, our programs, and the spin-offs of all those programs. Like, so we did D&D, but then the sketch comedy Whisker Do Powerhouse.
Yep,
and then now the girls have launched Skid Marks, which is just more, silly spin-off stuff. So, I mean, there's so much going on. 2019 was an amazing year, and 2020 is going to be the fire.
So excited, man. 2020,
the
like
roaring
our vision.
20s.
We got that vision.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So
you're not my grade. That's when we graduate. So on our t-shirts it says like 2020. What's your vision? On the back of our like freshman year t-shirts.
Yes.
That makes sense. Yeah, no, I graduate 2021. That just means I'll get to be here longer.
That's right. All right, ladies, any closing words for the friends?
Thanks everybody for supporting the channel.
Illy.
Yes.
It's the best. It's given us so many cool opportunities, and not only supporting like what Bill does, but like getting to know the students and like the people that work behind the scenes, and then supporting like the stuff that we do, like Whisker Do. And it's just very grateful for all the support that everybody gives to us. So thanks.
It's great.
Yes.
And I'm also, Bill, like I'm really grateful for you, because without you and all the effort you put into everything that is that, like without you doing your D&D and everything else, like this LTTV would be like a shell what it is now.
Yeah, you're a legend.
I feel honored by that statement. Thank you. I will also say thank you to the people who have connected us to the bigger part of the community. Mm-hmm. So everybody at Gen Con that we worked with who were just awesome and professional, our streaming executive producer, Lauren.
Oh, yeah.
She was just on it all the time.
Very hard work.
And then our buddies in streaming from Hyper RPG, working with them was cool because they were out with the mobile camera shooting stuff all over the convention in between the panel live streams. So it was like keeping the live streams going, and they're just awesome people. The hosts from the different panel rooms, the games, the live stream games in the big room, the audience, working with all those people was cool. The GaryCon people are just awesome. Like when we're there, we're like part of the family, Black
Shout
Magic.
out to Derek.
Shout out to Derek. Derek at the Grand Geneva Lodge, our man. We're coming back, brother. We'll be seeing you soon. And also Derek Gooder, who's from Gen Con, who really put the stamp of love and approval on our crew.
And then everybody at Gen Con that was just like down to listen to whatever. Like they knew we were high school kids, and some of us clearly looked like kids, but I feel like everybody at Gen Con, when I said something or like I had an idea, or they recognized the fact that we were all there to work and like we knew what we were doing, and I feel like I just really appreciate that. So shout out to Marcus at Gen Con.
Yes. Remember Marcus?
I love Marcus.
Oh, Marcus. See, everybody.
Yeah.
Like, we really, it's work. We're not going to lie.
Yeah.
Like Michael said, 18-hour day,
Yeah.
15-hour day minimum, typically longer. But we worked our butts off, but it was awesome because the people we were working with were cool.
Yeah.
Like, and it's hard to say that universally, like every video gig I've ever worked, oh yeah, everybody's cool, because that's not true.
Yeah.
Sometimes you work with people who are jerks, but genuinely, like the love is there at Gen Con and GaryCon, and being like the proud video dad. Like for me to see my kids own the crew and just like run the show was the moment, So thank you, all of you guys. Thank you for tuning into this stream. Thank you again to DoD Spec Ops, who encouraged me to make this reflection. It was a good process for me to think about all the blessings we've just been blessed. 2019 was like a year of many blessings. So thank you to all of you guys for your support. Thank you so much to the patrons, all of you guys on Patreon. And if you're not there, think about it. If you were $1 a month member, you'd have the love. For 2 or more, you get different pledge levels. Do what you can, and we will love you for it. And those connections just keep growing. So thank you guys, all of you guys. And hopefully all of you guys will be joining us for all the cool content coming through in 2020. Because we have so much more, and it's going to be on fire. So we'll see you guys in the new year. Thank you, bless you all, and peace out, love.
Thank you, bye.
Happy New Year.